Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome to the C&J Sports Talk Podcast. I'm Jackson.
I'm Cannon.
And we're here to give you a new perspective on sports. We just almost finished off a nice Week 8 NFL finish. It will end tonight on Monday Night Football with the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns, which should be a very, very interesting game to observe. But we want to start off with, of course, the Dallas Cowboys, and we're going to discuss how they looked and about Dak Prescott. He had a pretty good outing yesterday.
He looked pretty good. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I wasn't as high as maybe other Cowboys fans would have been at that Bears game because I was like, hey, Cowboys couldn't stop Daniel Jones very well. Even though they beat the Giants, they still couldn't stop Daniel Jones as well as they could have. And I was right to an extent because Justin Fields ran over Dallas pretty well. Like, he could not do anything passing. Like, nothing. Like, if you could pull up his stats really quick, because it was like, it was not a lot. He did get a couple touchdowns, but the passing yardage was not a lot. But his running was dynamic.
Yeah.
And he's definitely an asset on that team. If he can fine-tune that throwing, by next year, he could be in that top 15 quarterback conversation. Yep. It's really throwing is the only thing.
17 of 23, 151, 2 touchdowns.
151 and 2, but some of that came during garbage time, too. Is like after Cowboys were up by like 20 points. Mm-hmm. I will say, Dak looked really good. He had one mistake the whole game, and it was that interception. And that interception almost brought the Bears back into the game. If in case you didn't see the game, I'd like to describe it as Cowboys were driving. Bears, they got stopped, and then Justin Fields got a roughing the passer called on him that I didn't really think was too big of a deal. And so they ended up getting a touchdown off that drive, and then what Dallas did was they compounded mistakes by trying to be too aggressive, and they throw an interception. Lucky for the Cowboys, they only got a field goal out of it, but that game could have looked a whole lot different. Like, Cowboys were up by over 15 at that point. Yeah. And then they go into halftime with like a 7 or 10 point lead. So Dallas almost did what Dallas does and compounds mistakes and ruins games. But like I was telling you, Jamal, this team seems different. They didn't let those mistakes screw up the rest of the game like you would expect the Cowboys to let the mistakes screw up the rest of the game. They came out calm. They came out composed. And what did Dak do after throwing that really stupid interception where he didn't even see Eddie Jackson? He just drove down, and he just drove down like it was nothing, scored another touchdown. I can see that Dak's back. His arm looked good. His football placement, like where it should go, looked good. Like during that Tampa Bay game, it didn't look good.
Yeah.
But this time, it's looking good. Like, it looks like he's back fully. I do want to see them play a more challenging team than the Bears. But I do think this Bears team was on the up. I mean, they just...
They're okay.
That's what I mean. They're okay, but Dallas still scored 49 points against OK, and 49 points against anybody is pretty good. And it was like they probably could have scored more, but they slowed down a lot. I mean, Dak did all of his damage in the first half, and it's like, okay, now let's just let Tony Pollard break off 50-yard runs.
Yeah.
It's 3 touchdowns, now that Dak doesn't need to throw it. This is probably the most balanced Cowboys team I've ever seen in my life. Which is why they're in that upper tier 2 for me still. Anything you want to
they had a really, really good game. Dak looked good. Dak, he's bound to give you some good games in there the way that he did yesterday. I thought there were some issues on defense for some reason. To me, I think they had an off day on defense. But kind of your last point about more challenging teams, that's kind of where I want to head to, because I think that's been a thing with the Dallas Cowboys over the past several years. They beat the brakes off of a team that's either mediocre or bad, but when it comes to a really, really good team, it's not the same. So I think even though yes, I feel like by default. Sorry if I sound like a hater. By default, they might be a tier 2 team, like as far as the Super Bowl, because the NFC isn't as strong as it probably should be. Because the LA. Well, I know, but the LA Rams. When they beat the LA Rams, it looked like a good win, but that doesn't look like a great win. But overall, I don't think they're good enough to beat San Francisco if it came down to it. I don't think they're good enough to beat the Eagles if it came down to it. I think who else is in the NFC? So they got about we'll say for right now they have 2 teams in their way. All right.
See, by good enough.
But here's the thing though. The unfortunate thing for them is one of the best teams in the NFC is in their division, meaning they might not get even might not get a home game in the playoffs. Will they get a home game in the playoffs?
I assume they wouldn't.
They wouldn't. So they'll probably have to go. So they could possibly have to go to Tampa Bay. They, who don't look good right now, but I think they're going to get stuff going.
I mean, they might not even make the playoffs.
I believe the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will make the playoffs. They'll make it. And then who else is in the NFC? Who am I missing? So Minnesota is going to be tough.
Yeah, they'll
have to go in Minnesota and beat them.
It's a dome though.
It's a dome, but it's not going to be their dome. So
I mean, I'm not too worried about. The only team I think Dallas has a super low chance of beating the NFC is the Eagles at this point in time.
I think 49ers too.
I mean, 49ers are tough, but I consider them on equal tiers right now. Mm-hmm. Really, I think Dallas has more talent than them right now. I just think I think 49ers coaching is better. Mm-hmm. But like saying that Dallas can't win those games, I
didn't say they can't. Well, it's going to be, But what I'm trying to say is, sorry to cut you off, but like just based on like history, right? This is typical Dallas. They'll beat up on a mediocre team, but when it comes to the stiffer teams, it's not like tiptoeing through the tulips when it comes to them. So I would like to see them play the Eagles again and see if they can beat them. I'm not sure if they have 49ers on their schedule.
I doubt it.
Yeah, I don't think they have 49ers on their schedule.
I would have pinpointed that. But really the only team they have left that's worth a dang are the Giants, the Eagles.
I think you guys are better than us. Look, I'm not biased like that, but I think Dallas is, even though we're 6-2, I think Dallas is better than us.
Well, Dallas is 6-2 as well.
Yeah, but yeah. you guys, I know. All right, you guys are just better than us. I just believe that.
I know what you mean.
Yeah,
I think you have an advantage in coaching, which we'll get to the Giants because I do want to talk about them, but in a good way. I want to talk about them in a good way. All right. I'm not going to laugh at your loss.
Yeah.
So, thing is, I understand we can look at history. Mm-hmm. I try to look at things in a vacuum because every season's different. I know Dallas has had these issues in the past, but like I said, those were issues because of imbalance. Mm-hmm. Like Dallas's defense, during the Tony Romo, the new triplets, Tony Romo, Dez Bryant, DeMarco Murray, their defense wasn't that good.
Yeah,
and Romo didn't have an offensive line. During Dak's rookie season, where the defense looked great, the offense wasn't that great. Mm-hmm. It was definitely
the running game was dominant.
Okay, the running game was dominant, but Dak still had work to do as a passer. Mm-hmm. So my thing is like if Romo was the quarterback of that team, they had a significantly better chance to win the Super Bowl. And like I said, look at things in a vacuum. You could say, "Oh yeah, Romo's a choke artist." Sure.
No, I never. I know that mentality.
People say that though, but it's like Romo was definitely a better football player at that point than Dak.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And they would have beaten Aaron Rodgers that week because Dak's inexperience made them lose that playoff game because they were down by 20 points. Mm-hmm. They were down by 20 points in like the first half, and then they had to come back. I'm pretty sure Romo's veteran presence and Romo being I would say top 10 quarterback at that time.
I don't disagree.
I think they could have beaten the Packers, and I think that would have been their best shot at a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, we can sit there and we can say that about Tony Romo, but at the end of the day, Tony Romo didn't even make an NFC championship. So
and
like
Sorry. The imbalance.
Mm-hmm. But in 2014, I mean, whether you want to say Des caught it or not, at the end of the day, they lost. You know what I'm saying? They had a lot of balance that year. You know, they didn't.
Their defense was still not that good.
Hey, but
like
okay.
what I'm saying about this team, and I'm not trying to make excuses for why the Cowboys lost. What I'm trying to say is this team has the most balance I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Dak is in that top 10 conversation, top 12 conversation. You have a top 12 quarterback, you got a good chance of winning a Super Bowl if you have a good team. The running game looks great. Like, I'm glad Zeke missed this game because it lets everyone see Tony Pollard is a significantly better runner than Zeke. The only thing Zeke has is two things, which is the reason I think he plays so much. Number one, he's stronger, so he's a better goal line back by default. Number two is Zeke's a better run blocker, which keeps him in games because in passing situations you want Zeke to block because he's a great blocker. But Pollard's explosive.
Yeah.
I mean, 14 carries, 130 yards.
Yeah.
You have to be special to put up those numbers. You can't put up those numbers being a bum. So I think what this shows is Pollard needs to be the lead back. And then Zeke needs to be the change of pace.
You see what Jones said? I saw the report. He said that Zeke is still their number one guy.
Well, yeah, that's called following the money, and I don't like that. I don't like that mentality.
Yeah.
I really hope they re-sign Zeke for like $4 million next year, just to keep him because I like having Zeke on the team.
But no, I 100% agree with that. He should be their number one guy because he's extremely. He's the best offensive weapon that y'all have, I think. And I will say though, like y'all having Dak has made CeeDee Lamb look a lot better. CeeDee Lamb, yeah. He's made he's definitely helped you guys out. He's made you guys more explosive for sure. But again, I'd like to see it against one of the top tier teams.
And trust me, I would too.
Yeah.
I try to be as unbiased as I can with this team.
Yeah.
Like, if this wasn't my team, I'd still be calling them what they are currently, which is tier 2. What would put them in the elite tier for me is if they do have a good definitive win against the Eagles. If they do that, then they'll go up to elite tier for me.
If they beat the Eagles, then we'll see what I say then.
And the part that I'm talking about is they don't screw up the game as much now. It's like I was saying with Dak threw that pick. I'm like, oh, here we go, Cowboys screwing up the game and compounding mistakes. They didn't let it bother them. Dak just marched right back down and scored again. And then the defense, even though they let stuff off to Fields, I think this is Dallas's kryptonite is running quarterbacks. They seem to not be able to defend them as well as everything else. But hey, every defense has something though.
Yeah, but that's a problem because y'all have just that in your division with Jalen Hurts. So
yeah, that's
he can run. So and even Daniel Jones. But again, I think Cowboys are overall better than the Giants. So
it's very true. The thing that really gives me hope for this Dallas team though is the fact that they were losing like 20 to something against the Eagles, and they came back and they made it interesting with Cooper Rush.
They do that all the time though.
Well, like I said, it's about compounding. It's about mistakes, and they let off a lot of mistakes. And granted, I think the Eagles, that second half woes is very real with them. Is like, I don't know if their game plan isn't good for the second half or teams get used to them, but it's like with Cooper Rush, they lost by 10 points. Dak could have made a bigger difference in that game. So not that I'm saying Dallas would have won, but I think that the game would have been a lot closer.
It just seems like that to be a trend for Dallas Cowboys over the years. Like they'll fall way behind and then they come marching right back and fall up short. It seems like it's like I don't know what's going on. It's something deep ingrained into their culture and their organization. They'll fall behind and then they'll come creeping right back. And that's why I think a lot of Dak's numbers have been conflated because when you fall behind the way that they do, what do? You just continue to pass. You pass because you're playing catch up. So, I think a lot of that can be, misunderstood.
I'll say that for Dak's season. I think it was 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah.
Like even before, I think the one before he broke his ankle. Yeah, that's definitely how they were winning. But the problem was, and the reason why that was the case is because of two things. That was the worst defense they've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
Like, statistically, that was the worst defense that Dallas Cowboys have ever had.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard to not have to be a gunslinger and throw it and throw it and throw it when you have to make up 7 points every time you go down the field. But that's besides the point. Is number two is they were playing Dak a lot differently than they're playing him now. They made Dak the unquestioned. They made him like Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, like in his usage. Like they were leaning off the run game, and Dak was throwing it 40, 45 times a game, which is not Dak's game.
They probably still do it because he got that big contract. Jerry's going to want him to earn his money.
Well, I think they'll do what they need to win. And aside from the Zeke thing, because they're just being stubborn there, but they have shown a reliance to the run game.
Yeah.
They have shown that they will continue to run it even with Dak. Because I think the old Cowboys would have gotten way too pass happy and they would have screwed the game up more. But I mean, when's the last time a Dallas Cowboy has had, like, running back has had 3 touchdowns?
Why can't you guys be like Charger fans? Like, I'm not saying you're cocky right now. You're not, because you're not. I'm just overall, because it's funny how we talk about Super Bowl. Like, I remember 3-4 years ago when the Chargers were, when the second to last year with Phillip Rivers, and they were like one of the best teams in the league, and they beat the Chiefs on that Thursday night football game. And then when it came to New England in the playoffs, like, yeah, we're really, really good, but we'll see.
Well,
like nobody at the Chargers, they didn't talk about the Super Bowl. It's we'll see. But the Cowboys are good. Super Bowl.
Here's the thing you're missing though. New England.
Okay, but it doesn't matter.
New England was like, how many Super Bowls did they go to in a row at that point?
I understand, but like if you look on paper that year, that Charger team was better than the New England Patriots. They just were. At the very least, on paper, they were better. But even in Chargers, they went into Kansas City and they beat, Patrick Mahomes, who was, already arguably the best quarterback in the league in his, second year in the league when he started. And the Chargers, they were just dominant that year. They were really, really good that year.
But even with them being good, I wouldn't say they were the best team in their division even.
Okay, but what I'm trying to say is even Charger fans were acknowledging that. So and they weren't even really bringing up Super Bowl like that. But when it comes to the Cowboys, they're good, right? And all of a sudden we just catapult them to like Super Bowl contention and this, that, and the other. And it's just when their history hasn't shown that. Despite them having really, really good years. This is not the first time. I mean, yeah, there might be little differences here and there. But, like, this is not the first time we've seen the Cowboys, like, extremely, like, dominant in the regular season. And yet they haven't been able to pass the divisional round. So
yeah, I think
it's like I just really – I'm trying to do y'all a favor. Like, really, just hold the excitement. Just hold the excitement.
Well, I don't think most people are saying Super Bowl right now.
I guarantee if you go to Dallas right now, they talking about Super Bowl. Guarantee. I got a cousin right now. I can ask him, where do you think Cowboys going in February? He gonna say Super Bowl.
Yeah, but I mean, if you lump all the fans into something, because I'm sure there were Charger fans like, yeah, we're gonna beat the bricks off the Patriots and we're gonna go to the Super Bowl. But like, I'm not even saying Super Bowl right now. But what I will say is. And I think this is the last thing we should probably say because we got a lot more stuff to talk about is I've never seen balance like this. Like, it's different. It's like the Giants. You know how you're saying it's different. The coaching's actually good. It's like with Dallas. The balance is good. The defense is top 10. The offense is...
They could potentially...
could potentially be top 10. But I think they're 15. They're in the middle. And with the potential to get better depending on Dak. And I'll say the way Dak looked, if he could look like that consistently, they do have a chance to be in that elite tier because their talent is overwhelming. It's like they're not as talented as the Eagles, but I mean, I can't look at a spot on that team and I'm like, they're weak in that area. Like many other teams, it's like teams have their flaws. It's like the Niners. I'm sorry, Jimmy G, he's one of the flaws of that team.
But but that's the thing. He still have gotten to the NFC Championship and the Super Bowl. Something that Dak you can't say.
So I'll say though, if Dak was on that Niners team, They probably would have won the Super Bowl.
Okay, fine.
Because Jimmy G is a mid quarterback to a low end starter. And like here's the example that I always like to use is they didn't trust him against the Vikings, so he passed 4 times. The offense was not good because of Jimmy G. Jimmy G was just a good enough game manager to get them there. But that is the most talented Niners team I've seen.
He also last year against Green Bay, he made some important throws in the cold, in the snow. So, I mean, he can get it done for you. He can. I'm not, talking as if he's this, elite top 10 quarterback, but, he has the ability to make the throw when he needs it. He made a couple good plays last year in the divisional round against the Green Bay Packers.
But in reality, they should have lost that game because
they won regardless.
Yeah, I understand that. I just to be honest, I didn't really watch as much of that game as I wanted to, but weren't there 2 special team errors?
It was special team errors.
Yeah.
But he didn't lose them the game.
Yeah,
he might not have won them the game, but he didn't lose it. He didn't lose it either. So,
and that's the type of quarterback I would hate to have on my team.
I would hate to have that type of quarterback on my team, but there's much more I prefer. But I wouldn't hate to have that on my team.
If you are a team that is not as talented as the Niners, you'd hate to have that team. That's why Bridgewater lasted 1 year in Denver, because they realized, man, this guy can't win us a game. Oh, look, his numbers look good, but he's not.
But the Jimmy G made a Super Bowl.
Yeah, but
an NFC Championship.
But I could name 20 other quarterbacks that would have made a Super Bowl in that position too.
Did they?
Are they on the Niners?
I'm just saying.
I think we'd be talking about Super Bowl or probably 2-time Super Bowl champion Kirk Cousins right now. If Shanahan would have waited for Kirk Cousins and Kirk Cousins was the quarterback of the Niners, we'd be probably talking about at least 1 or 2 Super Bowls.
We can say that all we want to, but that's not a reality. It might, maybe in some parallel universe, okay, fine. But like on Earth.
But here's my point: is you're saying that Jimmy G, he made it to a Super Bowl. What I'm saying is that there are a lot of quarterbacks that year that could have made a Super Bowl with that team. It's like the Tom Brady effect. Is Tom Brady better than Aaron Rodgers? Like, not legacy-wise, talent-wise. Would you take Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady in a vacuum?
You said talent-wise?
Like,
talent-wise, I'm taking Aaron Rodgers, yeah.
Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, same football team, whole career.
Aaron Rodgers. I'm taking Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly. Imagine if Aaron Rodgers was the Patriots' starting quarterback. You don't think they would have won 6 or 7 Super Bowls?
No, I agree. But what I'm saying is, Jimmy G, like, people talk bad about him. It's like, he hasn't screwed up and kept them from getting to the Super Bowl, per se. You know what I'm saying? When the years that they made it, it's one thing. It's one thing if you're not elite, if you're not an elite player, and it's another thing if you don't screw stuff up. You see what I'm trying to say? So he was good enough for them to make it. Is my whole entire point. So it's like you can obviously that's obvious. If you could put a whole bunch of quarterbacks in that situation, it could be the case. Okay, because I think Kirk Cousins is better than Jimmy G. But there's there's some quarterbacks that you put in Jimmy G's place who will not make that.
Yeah,
who wouldn't make the Super Bowl.
I'd say there's probably about like.
You think Baker would make it?
Baker has more talent than Jimmy G.
But Baker wouldn't make it.
If Baker was coached by Shanahan,
he wouldn't make it.
I think he could make it.
He's too short. Like I was telling you, when I was watching this year against Carolina Panthers, I can't tell you how many balls I saw batted at the line of scrimmage.
The difference is, though, when you have a good coach who knows how to work with your strengths and weaknesses, that's how they get successful.
I understand that. But I think Kevin Stefanski's pretty good.
But he had 3 coaches in 3 years. It's tough. And they would not have gotten rid of Baker if they didn't get Deshaun Watson. It's like Baker is not a bad quarterback. We can see from that Panthers system that I'm not saying Baker's top 10. I'm not saying he's top 15. He's somewhere between 15 and 20. My point being is, if he was on the Panthers, he is on the Panthers. If he was on that Niners team, Shanahan would have found ways to make it work.
This man had Odell Beckham. This man had Jarvis Landry, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. I think Peoples-Jones even good. Njoku. He had some weapons on that team. And I think Kevin Stefanski is a good, coach. And he's still. I mean, he made a divisional round, but like
they were like one possession away from beating the Chiefs.
Okay, did they beat them?
Well, here's the thing, though, is the Chiefs are the cream of the crop. It's hard to get past the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, only one team's done it in the last 4 years, 5 years. The Bengals, and the Chiefs should have won that game. It's like thinking about a good team like in the NBA, like that prevented another team who was also deserving. Like those Spurs teams the Lakers beat. Those Spurs teams were good enough to beat almost anybody but the Lakers. And it's just like definitely the way that things can be looked at can change by your competition. No. Is that Browns team, like Baker, that was Baker's best year. Like Baker was great that year.
Yeah.
And it's like you run into the Chiefs. It's like I didn't expect Baker to beat the Chiefs. I didn't expect Baker.
What about, okay, that's 1 year. What about the other years?
The year where he separated his shoulder in week 2 and he didn't recover. Here's what I blame him for. He shouldn't have played. He should have said, screw you, I'm going on IR. Because he screwed his future up doing that.
Yeah.
He looked like a bad quarterback when he's not a bad quarterback. Because he was playing through a separated shoulder the entire year.
You think Baker's better than Jimmy G?
Yes. He has way more talent than Jimmy G.
I don't think Baker's better than Jimmy G.
He is. He has way more talent.
He's not better than Jimmy G.
He has way more talent than Jimmy G.
Like, I agree, like, you're saying Jimmy G's a mid to, like, okay, what would you say, 15 to 20?
No, Jimmy G's like 20 to 25.
I think y'all give him a little too much hate. I really do. He can make some bonehead plays here and there, but I personally think y'all give Jimmy G way too much hate.
His high-end talent isn't there.
I mean, obviously he's not an elite quarterback, but I just think there's too much. Like, at the end of the day, there might have been that game against the Vikings where he only handed the ball off 4 times, but okay.
I take Daniel Jones over Jimmy G.
Daniel Jones is more talented than Jimmy G overall, for sure. But, like, as a quarterback...
See, he looks mid when he has an offensive genius.
Who you talking about?
Jimmy G.
Jimmy G, yeah.
He looks mid when he has everything working for him. It's like, think about Goff. Goff looked borderline elite when he was with the Rams. And then it all fell apart after the Rams got figured out. Your coaching matters. And if Baker was with McVay, Belichick, Sean Payton, Shanahan, we'd be talking about like Baker Mayfield, top 15, top 10 quarterback right now.
Yeah, I don't see it with Baker Mayfield. I personally don't see it with Baker Mayfield.
He has a cannon.
Like I said,
he has a cannon for an arm. He has mobility. Really, his height's the biggest deficiency. But good coaches can figure out how to work around that. And, like, granted, Stefanski, he is a good coach. And he got the most out of Baker. Like, he didn't get the most out of Baker, but he got a lot out of Baker because Baker had a really good year that year.
Yeah.
I think Baker's just had a really bad short than a stick right now, and he looks a lot worse than he is. Like,
I'm just saying. I just think there's. I think he gets a little bit too much criticism. No, was he the guy that was worth replacing Tom Brady? No, he wasn't. But I think at the same time, like, I feel the hate for Jimmy G and the talk, I think is a little bit too much. Because at the end of the day, it does say something for you to get to an NFC championship and for you to get to a Super Bowl. It just, to me, that just says something. Okay, you're doing something right. Okay, whether you want to credit the coaching or whatever, but at the end of the day, the players have to go out there and execute.
Do we talk about Dilfer being a good quarterback?
Okay, that's 1 year. It's one thing with twice. He was one quarter away from getting to 2 Super Bowls. Trent Dilfer went to 1 Super Bowl, and he had the most dominant defense ever, probably. And Jamal Lewis was,
well, that's my
bruiser.
That's
but
my
I'm just saying. Okay, I understand, but he made it twice. He's made it twice, and nobody's claiming. Again, nobody's claiming Jimmy G's a great player or a really, really good player for that matter. I'm just saying I think he just gets too much criticism. Is what I'm trying to say.
My biggest issue with him is you could look at his stats, and his stats are going to say, oh, he did fine. But the big key is Shanahan set up a system to where Jimmy G did not have to throw the ball past 5 yards. He threw screen passes. He threw everything under the sun that is a 5-yard pass. If you look at Jimmy G's yards after completion? Like, I'm just trying to think of the exact stat it's called. Like, basically, Jimmy G throws 5 yards, Debo Samuel runs 80 yards.
I got what you're saying. I got you.
It's like, okay, Jimmy G now has 95 yards because Debo took a 5-yard slam to the house.
I agree passing yards can be overrated, for sure.
And then, QBR, super overrated stat. All of these stats are overrated. Interceptions, overrated. Really, the big thing is Kyle Shanahan found a way to make Jimmy G look good. Is like, if Jimmy G went to that Carolina Panthers team, they'd be just as big, if not a bigger dumpster fire than when Baker Mayfield was the quarterback. The only thing I can't give Baker any excuses for is how you let Odell become nothing. Like, how do you let Odell not be your best quarterback? And, like, you can say what you want about Jarvis. Personally, I think Jarvis is slightly overrated anyways. Is like,
he's a good enough player. He's good. He's a good complimentary. I can't say that word. Complimentary. Did I say that? I said
complimentary.
He's a good second guy. Yeah. He's a good second guy to Odell, is what I'm trying to say.
No, he definitely is. The thing with Jarvis is he can catch anything under the sun, but he is, like, you know me, I like speed.
Yeah.
I like
number 2.
Athletic traits. And Jarvis does not have those athletic traits.
No, I agree.
And he's a good second.
And that's what he had.
But for some reason, Baker and Odell just could not get a connection. And I'm going to blame more Baker than Odell because it sounds like most people on the team were on Odell's side.
I guarantee you if Jimmy G was on there, he'd be better suited with Odell Beckham than Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I think
he would have found a better way to get. He would have found a way to get Odell Beckham Jr. involved in the offense.
Yeah, I think if Odell was on the Niners for sure, like Odell would be, but like. I think Odell would have, and Jimmy G would have had a better connection for sure, but I don't think that makes him a better quarterback. I just hope we can see what Baker's actually all about because you're talking about Jimmy G is like overhated. It's like I think Baker is overhated. Like,
I think Baker did that a lot to himself with his mouth.
Yeah, you could say that.
Because he talks a big game, and it's like at the end of the day, and, he hasn't produced as a number one should. So I think Baker had a lot to do with that, with his hate.
Yeah,
Jimmy G just been, he just been playing.
Yeah, he's quiet and under the radar, which is how Shanahan likes his quarterbacks. I mean, he didn't go after Patrick Mahomes. I wish... maybe as a Dallas fan I shouldn't say this. I wish Kirk Cousins went to that team because I think that would have been exciting. That would have been.
I think Kirk is better than Jimmy G.
I think that would have been box office. Because I think Kirk is like, if you want to talk about like final forms, it's like Jimmy G's like the base form, and then of the game manager. Then you get Kirk Cousins, who's like the fully evolved form, like the guy who can't make any extra plays. But he can run that offense perfectly. Yeah.
Let me rephrase. I think Kirk Cousins is better than Jimmy G as far as like the big play. I think he'll let loose. He can let loose. Like his offensive coordinator allow him to let loose.
I think he runs offenses better than him too, though.
Yeah, but my thing is with Kirk Cousins, we have yet to see him. Only one time we have yet to see him make the play or anything to help his team win. A big playoff game. He did once in New Orleans, but other than that, he hasn't been in an NFC Championship game. He hasn't been in the Super Bowl. Okay, he hasn't been there. Jimmy G, again, I'll point it out. I mean, he missed a couple throws there. Yes, of course, he's missed some throws, but he's also against that Green Bay team. He made, I think, was it that final field goal? That was Jimmy G throwing some nice balls in there in that final drive. There was a couple of them in there, so he has the capability to do it. How I know that? He's done it. So I think the hate's unwarranted. Of course, obviously, everybody deserves some criticism if you don't produce, but I think people just talk about him as if he's just straight garbage. I think that's garbage. He's not garbage.
Well, yeah, I'd put him above garbage for sure. I mean, garbage to me.
But that's how people talk. That's how people talk about him.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Well, you know, we're in a society where it's a lot easier to overhate.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield, it gets talked like he's like the worst quarterback in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of parallels between Jimmy G and Baker, it seems like. And then the big difference is who's won and who hasn't won, who has more talent, who doesn't have more talent. Is if you look, Baker makes nice throws. Like, he has the arm strength to throw 60, 65-yard bombs.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy G does not have that. It's like if we were in a vacuum, like I was talking about with Rodgers and Brady, I think Baker Mayfield would be more successful with a team than Jimmy G would be with a team, just because of traits.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the reason I know that is because the season where he finally got his chance to, you know, like, okay, good team, good defense, they were one play away from beating the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they didn't beat the Chiefs. I know. But we've only had one team that's beaten the Chiefs outside the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. It's tough to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if they would have stuck with Baker this year, we probably would have seen Baker ascend even higher. Because I know that he did not do well, but like when you have a separated shoulder, well, right arm, whatever, is he left hand, right? I don't even know. It's hard to be the best quarterback you can be with that. And I think Baker was trying to listen to the talk. It's like, you know, people say, oh, he's selfish.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's an a-hole. You know, we don't like him. And then he was like, okay, I'm going to change, and I'm going to be the best teammate I can be and try to be out there for my team to win games.
Yeah.
And what did that do? That screwed him.
Mm-hmm.
Because now he looks like crap.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, granted, this Panthers team, he's not looking good, but nobody's really looking good on this Panthers team. I mean, P.J. Walker's doing some nice stuff, but the reeling Bucks and the who did they even play? I try to black out that game because of what happened at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But like
Falcons.
Mm-hmm. I think if Baker gets another chance, which I don't think he's going to for a long time, maybe even a Geno-like amount, I think we're going to see a Baker who's going to do well. I mean, that's a good example situationally. Look, Geno was looked at as trash.
Yeah.
He was an afterthought for how long? Like 7, 8 years? And now he finally gets to show who he is. Did Geno just gain all this talent all of a sudden since he became starter? No, he's always had it. But when you play for the sucky Jets and the sucky Giants at that time, you're not going to look like a good quarterback.
No, I understand. Coaching is extremely important in the NFL more than any sport, pretty much.
It's legacy changing.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with that. I 100% agree with that.
Like, Brady, if Brady did not have Belichick, he would not have 6 or 7 Super Bowls. And I'll say the inverse. If Belichick did not have Brady, who was selfless and took less money, and was a yes man for how long he was, he wouldn't have 6 Super Bowls either.
Yeah.
These legacies change. It's coaching ruins or enhances players' legacies. I mean, let's look at the Browns. How many high-end quarterbacks have they had? Like, high-drafted quarterbacks. Don't you think it's kind of a coincidence that they all ended up not being good? It's the culture that team set the reason they're not good. Why do all Jets quarterbacks flame out? It's the culture. They are not good teams, and they do not supply their quarterback with what they need.
You're not saying anything I disagree with.
Look at Mahomes. Mahomes fit right into a good culture, good team. They traded up to get him. And Mahomes looks like the greatest thing ever. You best believe if Mahomes was on the Bears, we'd be talking about like, oh yeah, he's good, but he's not that guy.
What were the Bills before
the Bears?
Josh Allen?
They were a solid, 9-17, 10-16 for a little while.
But for a while, they didn't make the playoffs. They didn't make the playoffs for how long?
Yeah. But, I don't
want to... But what I'm saying is, Josh Allen was the number one, but, at the end of the day, if you're a number one, if you're that guy...
Yeah, I'm not saying Baker's that guy, though. Okay. I'm not saying Baker's elite.
Okay.
I'm saying Baker is in that 15 conversation.
Okay.
He could win you a Super Bowl if he has the team around him. Josh Allen is... This might be my hot take, but I think if Josh Allen continues what he's doing, he's going to be the second or third best quarterback we've ever seen in NFL history. Like, Pat Mahomes is on track to be first or second as well. Like, and I'm not saying accomplishments because no one's going to take out Brady's accomplishments. I'll say they're going to say, oh man, it's Rodgers, Mahomes, Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen is a transcendent talent that can up teams. But even when Josh Allen is that transcendent talent, they were not a Super Bowl contender until they built a team around him. Like, where was he before they got Diggs?
Yeah, you got to have a team. Yeah, of course.
Exactly. You got to have that team. Like, Josh Allen, even with Diggs, they still weren't going to win a Super Bowl because their defense wasn't that good. But now they have all these pieces around him, and this is his best chance. It's like Mahomes. Mahomes' team is stacked.
Yeah.
The thing about these elite quarterbacks is they can make less look like more.
Yeah.
While players like Jimmy G and Baker Mayfield, they can make right look right if they have what's going on. The thing with Baker, though, is I think he can make right look a little better than Jimmy G could.
Okay. All right.
So, yeah, that's 41 minutes.
Yeah.
We're going to go a little faster with kind of different analysis. So, let's just talk about quick reactions with, like, Green Bay.
Yeah.
Like, I'll let you start with this.
Yeah. Green Bay, my goodness. I don't even know where to start. They just need to make a trade before the trade deadline because there's just nobody on the outside. There's nobody to compete. Like yesterday's game it was a lot worse than what the score indicated. You know, Bills were just obviously heads and tails better than them.
Yeah, I'd like
and
to
Aaron Rodgers looked,
I'd like to add to that.
Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers looked, unfortunately, like a shell of himself, which he's not. He's still that dude. He might not be elite Aaron Rodgers, but he's still that dude. But they just lost to a far superior team, and I personally think if they had a couple more pieces though on the outside, they would have been a lot more competitive. I know that's not the only problem. They just defense has. I mean, you can only expect so much from a defense when they're going against the best player in the league, probably Josh Allen.
I'd say so.
But like overall, the defense has been extremely disappointing. They just lost Quay Walker. I think Quay Walker got he got ejected, and then Campbell got hurt. I don't know how long he's out for, but that's an issue to a defense that's kind of been. I'll just say not living up to expectations in the first place. But they got a lot of problems, and what's even worse is Minnesota is just they're winning. Minnesota's continuing winning, and they're continuing to pull away from this division. And they just got so many problems. Green Bay, they have to do something before the trade deadline, which I'm not expecting. But yeah.
Yeah, no, Minnesota's going to win the division.
Yeah,
the Packers have to hope they can get a wild card, which I don't think is going to happen.
Yeah.
Here's how low I think of them. I don't want to sound mean, but here's Josh Allen threw 2 interceptions, bad interceptions.
Yeah.
And I saw them, I'm like, oh, they're fine. I was just like, they're fine. Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? It doesn't matter. And part of that's Josh Allen, but part of that too is Packers offense.
Yeah.
I will say though, man, Rodgers let out a pretty long throw. I don't remember where in the context.
The touchdown?
No, it wasn't a touchdown. He dropped it. Whichever player dropped it, I believe.
Yeah. I didn't see that.
That throw was nice. And it shows that Rodgers still has it, which makes it even more frustrating that he doesn't show it.
Who dropped this pass? You say you don't remember?
I can't remember exactly. I was eating at a restaurant.
It was a bomb? It was wide open? I missed that part.
It wasn't wide. Oh, no. It was double coverage.
Uh-huh.
It was double coverage and the receiver. It went to the receiver, but he dropped it. But the ball just spun off his hand. It's like Rodgers still has it.
He still has it.
He just needs to do it. Mm-hmm. And then I saw Christian Watson got hurt. I don't know if he came back.
No.
Disappointing.
Yeah.
No, Packers didn't show me anything new. They're the same team.
It's like it's sad because it's like they became boring to watch.
They're so boring.
Yeah, I used to enjoy watching Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers, but it's like they're so boring. They just have no explosion in the offense. Yeah, scream, dink and dunk, stuff like that. It's just not an interesting watch at all. I watched some of the game, but I had some stuff I had to take care of. That's why I missed a few things. But when I watched it, it was just again, the score was a lot the game was a lot worse than what the score indicated. The Bills are just superior.
Which
a superior team.
Seems to be like prime time.
Yeah.
Has there been a good primetime game yet? Like a truly great primetime game?
I can't think of one.
No, they've all either been blowouts or lame games.
Yeah.
Fortunately for everybody, I think the Broncos are going to not have as many primetime slots coming at the second half of the season.
Yeah.
Oh, they won. Cool.
Yeah. but Green Bay, my goodness, make a trade. Do something. Do something. It's not work. It's clearly not working. I'm getting frustrated because I love Aaron Rodgers, but it's just do something. Like, come on. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, they wasted a draft pick a few years ago with Jordan Love. Like, it's just insane.
And Jordan Love looks like a bum.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, just a draft just wasted.
Well,
and so it's just...
I don't think the Packers have ever really been good at drafting. That's the problem is Aaron Rodgers was so transcendent. Like, he's that transcendent player, but they took that for granted. And they drafted things that should have gone to Rodgers.
That backlashed on him.
Yeah.
Backfired.
Yeah, it's like they haven't drafted a first-round wide receiver in who knows how long. I mean, Dallas drafted CeeDee Lamb when they already had 3 good wide receivers. It's like when a good wide receiver pops up, you take it.
You take it.
I mean,
they could have had Chase Claypool.
They could have had A.J. Brown. They could have had DK Metcalf.
They
could have had Chase Claypool. They could have had Deebo Samuel.
That's crazy.
And they didn't do any of that.
Crazy.
Who did they draft? Defense?
Crazy.
Like, your biggest strength is your offense.
Yeah.
Your biggest strength is your offense, and you're not going to give Rodgers everything he needs. I mean, you're going to give him old bum players like, oh, look at that. Oh, God, I can't even remember his name. Jimmy Graham.
Oh.
Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, let's get old Jimmy Graham, who's not worth a dang anymore.
Yeah.
Pay him a bunch of money to not be good. Let's get Sammy Watkins. It's like, look at the Chiefs.
Yeah.
The Chiefs lose 2 players and they gain 2 players.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in fact, they gained MBS.
Yeah.
Like, don't you think MBS would be good on that team right now?
They got Tony, too. Kadarius Toney. Giants. Like, who's been injured, but he can be explosive.
It doesn't cost a lot to get middle wide receivers.
No.
How much did they trade Tony for? Like a 4th or a 5th?
Yeah, something like that. You
could even have Jalen Reagor. I know he's not that good, but
yeah,
you could have gone for a 6th-round pick.
It's crazy.
Their management is trash.
Yeah.
It's bad.
I think the problem is, too, like, they don't have, like, an owner.
2 Super Bowls?
Yeah.
40 years of quarterback, Hall of Fame dominance, and 2 Super Bowls?
It's crazy. Like, I feel like if they had an owner, like, they'd have more than that. You know, I think they had a better wide receiver. I think if they had, like, an owner, I think he'd been on them.
They need to get a better GM.
Yeah, it's crazy.
No, it's disappointing. They wasted Rodgers, and now people are like starting the trend of like, oh, Rodgers isn't as good as Brady because look at he has 1 Super Bowl and he chokes. And it's like, no, Rodgers doesn't choke. He just doesn't. He doesn't have the pieces around him.
No.
So.
Yeah.
Let's talk about minus Jimmy Garoppolo because I think we covered him a lot.
Yeah.
We could talk about what you think about how the Niners look.
They look real dominant, but like.
They didn't even have Debo.
They didn't even have Debo.
They look good.
It's like they look good, but it's at the same time, it's like the Rams are just having a Super Bowl hangover. So it's like...
I can't even call a Super Bowl hangover. I saw this coming.
Mm-hmm. They lost... Whether you saw it coming or not, but it's still a hangover.
They lost like 8 players.
Yeah, but they look horrible. Horrible.
Because they lost core players. Like, Whitworth retired, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they lost like 4 good defensive players. Like, the Rams, screw them picks. I'd say something else, but screw them picks. You lose your depth.
Yeah.
And they lost all their depth. Like, not that they lost their depth. They lost their starters.
Yeah.
And then they had to go to depth, and their depth isn't good. It's like Dallas. I'm just going to say, like, because, I know a Dallas fan, but whatever. Dallas has so much depth on the defensive line. Oh, Randy Gregory, you're gone. All right, we'll just get 2 other players that are just as good as you.
Yeah.
And then now the defense looks even better. It's like the Rams, have not been drafting a lot of players.
I mean, yeah, but let's reel it back in real quick. I'm sorry to cut you off, but like, as far as the 49ers, Christian McCaffrey, man. He
I mean, he's good.
Like, man, he continues to do something similar to that. He's the best, running back in the league. And, if he continues to do what he did yesterday, for sure, they can beat the Eagles. I actually want to pick them to go to the Super Bowl. Even though they did it against the Rams, who's not looking good.
I want to give them a couple more weeks.
No, but why? They've been to an NFC Championship. They've been to the Super Bowl in the past 3 years. Now they have Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I need a. It's like you said with Dallas.
No, it's not like what I said with Dallas.
It is. They beat a subpar team.
But they've proven that this is pretty much the same core guys who already made who was one quarter away from making the Super Bowl last year. 2 years ago was in the Super Bowl.
I just don't like to determine how good a team is based off of 2 weeks. I want to see 2 or 3 more weeks. It's because the Rams do look sorry. I mean, they've been beaten by pretty bad teams.
Like I said, I'd agree with you, 49ers, if they haven't had the history that they have. But they've shown you that they can make it to not only an NFC Championship, but to a Super Bowl. So I would say that about the Eagles more than anything. I mean, but they didn't make the Super Bowl with this core. This is pretty much the same core that's made it. So they got Jimmy G, they got Debo. I don't think he was as potent in the offense as he was when they made the Super Bowl, but now he's even better.
The defense looks a little different, though.
The defense looks a little different, but they still got Fred Warner, who's probably the best linebacker in the league.
Like, I guess here's how.
No, he's not. Micah is, but he's one of the best.
Here's how I could best explain it.
Mm-hmm.
They went from the best, undisputed best defense that year to like top 7, top 5 maybe. It's a lot different because their defense was so otherworldly dominant, like one of the best defenses of the decade.
Yeah,
that's what concerns me. It's not the offense, except Kittle. I'm scared of Kittle because I'm like, what's going on with him?
Scared in what way? Like injuries, or scared of him like he's that dominant?
Injuries, and he's not as dominant.
Okay,
like,
got you. That's what you
mean.
mean.
The injury sap his strength. So I just want to, and especially with Debo in there, I just want to see 2 or 3 weeks of what they're made of so I can make a determination. I don't like going off of, like, I can't even say that, but I need to be better about not going off of instantaneous reactions of like, ooh, they did really good that one game, Super Bowl. Like, I think they're better than this team. It's like I did that with Kenneth Walker a little bit. It's like, I saw 2 games, and that's like what I needed to see. But it's like I need to take a step back and go, hey, look, see, he didn't have a dominant third game. He had a, last-second touchdown run.
Yeah.
And he was pretty much stopped after that. It's just like, let's just pump the brakes. Let's see.
But we've already acknowledged that they have the coach.
Yeah. No,
like,
I
we've
agree.
already acknowledged this. So it's like, I don't think it's a question these guys are a Super Bowl. If the only issue we have with 49ers is the injuries. If that's your argument, okay, fine. But like, assuming this team is at least 85% healthy, 90% healthy, this team, in my opinion, is the best in the NFC.
Yeah, and I will definitely give that to them in a week or 2, maybe 3. Yeah, I just need to see how they do it because they did really good. But that Rams-Niners game was a lot closer than it looked. Like, they pulled at the end. It's like the
first half was
it was close, and that's my problem is, and I know it was a divisional game. It was close though. It's like it wasn't pure. It wasn't pure domination.
In the second half, it was.
Yeah, in the second half, it was pure.
Where it counts.
But it's just I want to see a full game.
Okay.
And who are they playing next? Like, do you know who they're playing next?
49ers have... Ooh, let's see. 49ers.
I just...
They have... Oh, come on. They have the Chargers next. Interesting.
They'll smush them.
Interesting.
No, that's not even interesting. That's a domination.
But as time, okay, so what does that tell you?
Well, because the Chargers are like the worst run defense in the league. Mm-hmm. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, it's like
okay, I hear you.
If they dominate that team, I'm be like, yeah, I see it. But
Cardinals.
If they dominate the Cardinals, I'll give it to them because the Cardinals have a really good defense. Mm. It's just I want to see that domination. It's like the Eagles have been dominating teams. Mm. The Bills have been dominating teams. The Chiefs, it's just I just need to see it.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You want to move on to Giants? Or do you have anything else about Niners?
Giants, as far as the Giants, here's my takeaway with the Giants. It was bound to happen. There's so many games where it came down to the last second, minute or whatnot.
I but say nice things though.
Okay, but it's don't get me happy. But it was just bound to happen. There was too many games where it came down to the wire. I would love to see a game. Giants, this Giants team's good. They're decent. They're solid. But they still got a ways to go because I want to see them dominate a team, and we haven't seen that yet. They're playing through Saquon, and Daniel Jones has looked better. He hasn't turned the ball over at the degree that he did in the past, which is good, obviously. But this team, despite them being 6-2, they still have a long way to go. They're missing that explosiveness.
Outside of Saquon.
Yeah. Outside of Saquon, we need a wide receiver. Okay.
And it's sad because you just traded your best wide receiver.
And he wasn't even on the field. So we still have time. We're decent. We're a solid team. We can get some win. Obviously, we're good enough to win some games here and there. But we need a complete game where we're dominant because even the games that we won, we were coming from behind.
Every single game, the Giants have been behind.
They've been behind, and it was just bound to happen. So we have a long ways to go. I'm just. Yeah,
Go. Giants should have beaten the Seahawks. Mm-hmm. I think we can both agree there are two plays that happened that were stupid as... I'm not going to say it. Why is your punt returner holding the ball with one arm?
Yeah.
That man, was it the same guy?
It was two years, fumbled twice.
It was the same guy. He didn't learn the first time, and nobody even hits him.
Yeah.
Happened 2 times. The Giants were in control. They were playing the game they like to play. Yep. The Seahawks are the team that wants to dominate you. The Giants, it was a close game, and they had all the momentum, and then 2 stupid punt fumbles happened. Are you kidding me?
No, really. Yeah.
And I was texting you before that stuff happened, and I was going to text you after, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to say anything.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, the Giants are playing a perfectly managed game.
Yeah.
And then 10 minutes later, fumble. That dude better get cut.
And that's why, sorry to cut you off, and that's why I say we need to have more complete games so we can make up for that. There's too many times where we're not putting teams away or dominating them. We're just not good enough to afford that. No, versus Josh Allen, he could throw 2 picks, but they're still, like you said, whatever. But the Giants, we're not at that point to where we can turn the ball over 2 or 3 times and still come out and win the game. We're just not there.
If you turn over the ball twice, more likely than not, you're done.
Yeah, we're done.
But I think it's promising that it wasn't a Daniel Jones. Mm-hmm. It wasn't Daniel Jones screwing the game up. That would concern me more. You can cut that bum.
Please, I wouldn't call for nobody to get cut. But, I know if you don't do your job or whatever, but, I'm not going to
All right, let's not say cut, but let's say never return a punt.
Yeah, because I want these guys to get paid and have the job. They got families and stuff like that. So, yeah.
You shouldn't fumble your...
You shouldn't, but, but they do what they do. Well, I'm not just going to put that out there like that. But go ahead. You do what you do.
I'd be saying the same thing. If the Dallas punt returners did that, if Turpin did that, I'd be saying cut him too.
Yeah,
I know. It's but the Giants had that game under the control they wanted to. I believe, were they winning, or it was either winning or they were tied.
It was back and forth.
It was back and forth.
It was 7-10 Seattle. Then I think we went up 13-10, and then they tied it, and then something of that nature. That's the point, though, is
you were either up or close, and then he muffs it, and then he muffs it again.
Yeah,
it's like Kenneth Walker had no business getting his only touchdown because he should not have been in that position.
Yeah,
it's like, as a punt returner, you need to know your job. Your job is to secure the ball first and then maybe do something. When you're holding the ball like this, somebody hits you, it's coming out.
It's done.
It's like, I always talk crap about Odell because Odell will be doing this crazy stuff where you have the ball like this.
Yeah, Sean McCoy.
Exactly. It's like you're going to fumble the ball.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And, that's like, I'm talking about Odell and LaShawn McCoy like that. I'm like, I don't even know your name, dude.
Yeah.
And you're doing that. Like, you hold on to the ball like this. Just run straight. Not, chances are you're not going to get the touchdown. You're not Kevontae Turpin.
Oh, man, here you go. You Devin Hester. You don't put Turpin up there.
Hey, I'm talking about recent players.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
It's like, sure, you're not Devin Hester. You're not Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
You're whoever you are.
I forgot the guy's name. Yeah.
See, you don't...
Starts with a J, I think, his last name. But anyway.
Something.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just drop. Maybe his name's Fumble. But the Giants left me more encouraged than discouraged that game because I think they should have won. So I'm not worried about them.
It was a typical Giants game, but with the fumbles.
Yeah. If they wouldn't have fumbled, they probably would have won. Anything else you want to add to that?
Nope, we good.
All right. So what I do want to talk about is DJ Moore and the greatest / saddest play I've ever seen in my life. I bet them to win. I was like, I feel good about it.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't even watching that game. It was like, I was watching the Cardinals because I wanted the Cardinals to win too, I believe. And then he's like, you see that play? I'm like, are you kidding me? I just changed the channel 3 seconds ago. And then DJ Moore gets an amazing touchdown. And it just shows he has the talent of a top 10 wide receiver. That dude is special.
He is.
But whether it's he hasn't been good this year and he finally did something good, takes off his helmet, 15 yards. Panthers, you do not have the kicker to afford that 15-yard penalty. Pinheiro, I mean, he was cut by the Bears for a reason.
Yeah.
And you just made his job harder. I'm not even going to blame him. I'll blame him a little. But I'm not going to blame him because 90% chance he would hit that extra point.
Yeah.
And then we would not even be talking about his missed overtime field goals. If DJ Moore did not take off his helmet. Granted, he should have hit those kicks. They were not far kicks. I think it was, a 48-yarder? Which is far, but not nowadays.
Yeah.
And then he had a chip shot to win the game. And he missed that. Yeah. I'm just frustrated DJ Moore because he shouldn't have put the kicker in that position.
Yeah, no. I hear you for sure. It's like you can celebrate with your helmet on. Like, you don't need to take off your helmet. But my question is, like...
You're not Diggs.
If it's... call me ignorant. because I am ignorant to this fact. Like, if it's after the play and he's outside of the field, why is that a penalty?
Rule-wise, because during celebrations, you're still on the field. Like, he was still in the field vicinity. Like, I think they consider all the way to the back wall the field.
Okay.
So, and he took his helmet off while he was still on the field.
But okay. So, but why is that still? Why it's after the play? It's
after the play, which is why it affected the next play. So the next play was...
No, I understand that, but why is that even a penalty? Like, if it's not even...
Dumb player safety rules?
Like, my thing is the play's concluded. It's a touchdown. Like, it's a change of possession. Well, we see players all the time. When turnover on downs, they'll take off their helmet and they'll walk off the field. Why isn't that a penalty?
See, I agree with you. But the thing is, it's not a change of possession yet because they still have the touchdown. They still have to do their point after.
Okay.
So, this seems to be pretty common with unsportsmanlike conducts is that it happens on the PAT. So it's like if it's a 15-yard against the if it's a 15-yarder against the offense, then they can elect to have the kicker go back. But if it's a 15-yarder against the defense, then the kick starts 15 yards
I have a
back.
question. I remember, I think Aaron Donald, when he sacked Jimmy G in the NFC Championship game, didn't he take off his helmet?
See, there's the thing. There's a bias, which is a problem. Is the refs are not going to call that during it. They should not. I believe they shouldn't have called it anyways.
It shouldn't be a thing.
But
go ahead.
But DJ Moore shouldn't have put himself in that position.
I agree.
It's like the 3 pump rule, right?
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. I'm just troubling but I really don't see what's the big deal. You know, if the plays conclude, like, I'm not saying like, okay, if it's after a touchdown when with a whole different group, like the field goal, like, it's not even a big deal. But like, if you're taking off the helmet, you got the first down, you take, okay, whatever. But like, okay, after a touchdown and you guys are out there celebrating, like, to me that's not a big deal.
Yeah. No, I got you.
Yeah.
I don't know how they call excessive celebration if they call that on the point after touchdown. I feel like they don't.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
But funny enough, I want to watch the replay, but I think you remember the Diggs touchdown against the Saints last night.
Yep.
I think he got a penalty.
He did. He did. But then they let it go.
Well, because it wouldn't have done anything because there was 0 seconds.
Yeah.
But like Diggs got a penalty too, so it's something that's consistent.
Yeah.
They do need to figure something out because like if it's a player safety issue and he took his helmet off like way after the play's over, is that really dangerous? Yeah. I mean, sure, somebody could be mad and he could like try to like crush him, but
it's like his own team. I mean, obviously, there's a small percent chance you getting hurt with your teammates celebrating with you. Like, I don't know. I'll have to like really dig deep into why that's there to make sense out of it.
I just hate to have a game shouldn't end like that. They should just
I agree.
They should just pick up that flag.
Yeah, I agree.
Because that game turned from a classic to a freaking bummer.
Yeah.
So we already talked about Aaron Rodgers. We are running on hour 7. Do you want to talk about like who you think your top 3 receivers are, or do you want to save that?
Well, I think we'll say that next time.
All right, yeah.
We'll say that next time.
Give you a little teaser because I think that's going to be another 30, 40-minute conversation that we do not have the airspace for.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah.
All right, well, we thank you for being part of our C&J podcast for NFL Week 8 review. I'm Cannon.
And I'm Jackson.
And we'll see you later.
All right, peace out. What, that pause? Hold on, I got to come on my back.